investment funds, and these funds were seeking a concept, ethanol. And once we were processing ethanol, bioelectricity, and carbon dioxide, we closed this cycle, and we are witnessing the end of the second cycle, which is the cycle of trading companies. They are all participating, and the drivers' participation in Santa Elisa Valley business deal represents the closing part of this cycle. We have a new cycle, which is the big oil participation. They were analyzing this ethanol sector, considering three possibilities: forget or join this project, and decided to join this cycle. And they will bring about other issues that derived from this bioplastic and chemical products. And how will be the future? We have biomass global players, not only with the view to produce food during the first cycle, but now we are in the expansion cycle with this inclusion of these added products and the arrival of these new players, which might represent $1 billion a year of investments. Because of these, the sugarcane, we showed in the beginning what we might do, what we should do to congratulate everybody that were able to use what nature gave us, the possibility to create a sugarcane industry. Thank you very much. Thank for your presentation, a very important presentation from Silvestrin. He's enthusiastic of the subject, and I would like to invite Professor Nivalde, who works at the University of Rio de Janeiro. He's coordinator of study group of the electric sectors, that research aspects related to the electrical sector. I would kindly ask you to make your presentation in 20 minutes. So at least we will have 25 to 30 minutes for Q&A. And I ask the audience to send your questions in writing. You just I pass you the floor, Professor. Thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here today. It's a personal pleasure because I was born here in São Paulo, in this municipality of Barra Bonita, where we can see the convergence of electric energy and the sugarcane industry by the Barra Mill and the hydroelectrical mill of Barra Bonita, where my grandparents and other relatives worked to build this infrastructure that the country has today. And we have a positive future because of the energy crisis and the potential Brazil has in this sector. To a certain extent, my presentation will be very easy because I'm following Professor Silvestrin. I'm working closely with him, learning a lot with him about bioelectricity, as well as the almighty representative of bioelectricity, Gilmar, Dr. Jaime from Degini, director from Equipage, Cynthia from Total, which is a sector that complements the electric energy, and the Ministry, Camilo Pena, who is a man who belongs to this area. My presentation will be very didactic. I have 15 slides, and I'll try to discuss the ratio bioelectricity and the Brazilian electric sector. We like to present, make a supposition that we'll try to develop along the presentation, which is the Brazilian generator park is hydric. The analytic focus is in the electric energy, and an analytic focus based on the economy from my employer, which is University of Rio de Janeiro. The expansion of the hydric park will happen without any reservoir. I'm going to build the big mills in the borderline of the Brazilian, building huge mills without reservoirs. This is a significant change from the point of view of hydroelectric matrix, affecting the Brazilian energetic matrix. This leads us to the third point that shows that we are moving faster than we believed to a hydrothermal system and not hydroelectric as prevailed during the 80s. In this hydrothermal system, recent results, this fast development of thermal energy is based on thermal mills with a variable cost, which is very high, based on oil and natural gas, and with problems of hiring people, as we'll see further on. In face of this evolution and this problem, in our assessment, based on our studies, bioelectricity based on sugarcane is an electric, economic, and environmental option that will allow to complement the evolution of the hydroelectric matrix to a thermoelectric matrix. That's our central hypothesis that we are going to supposition that we are going to discuss here. This graph shows the level of reservoirs in the southwest region and shows the seasonality. What's interesting here, it doesn't have the power, it's here, because the background is white. In the blue peaks, where I reach during March and April, when we have more rain, and my level in June, July, August, which is the low peak in the dry season. So I have this variance, this volatility in terms of position of the reservoirs. This is an important data, especially as we mentioned before, because the new mills like Geral and Santo Antônio will generate lots of energy during the rainy season and a very low level of energy in the dry season without having a place to make to reserve or to stock the surplus of rain. This is a graph that shows, if you analyze February and March, I have 90,000 gigawatts in average, and in August I have 30 gigawatts in average. This is a huge oscillation in terms of reservoirs, but the demand of electric energy does not change so much. So I have a load that has a less volatile behavior standard than the natural energy. This creates a problem for the ENS, as Silvestrin mentioned, which is the effort that ENS did to establish a level to the reservoirs to avoid these oscillations that happens during the year, to avoid happening what we witnessed in December 2007 and January 2008, because We didn't have enough rain in November, and we were considering that Brazil would face a huge problem, that we would lack energy. But this oscillation led ENS to establish a goal level for the reservoirs, at so much so that by November there is no risk of disrupting the energy supply. And this will be worse and worse because of the problem we are going to see in a few moments when we have these new mills. What we have to discuss is a need to complement the hydric park. The seasonality will increase. We'll have a surplus of energy in the raining period, and the Brazilian electric system will need additional resources during the dry season, that when I move from 90 to 30 gigawatts in average. So I need to complement this level during the dry season. What the auctions are generating, as Silvestrin mentioned, today the planning of the energy matrix is after the auction. So I have an auction and I have an offer of 15,000 megawatts thermal energy. Bioelectricity represents 1,000 and 15,000 watts. And I have the result of the auction. The energy will be operative in 3 years. After the auction, I redesign the matrix. So I don't have a previous supposition. I want this kind of electric matrix. So after the auction, we have a completely different matrix. So we are being guided today by these auctions, which are bringing fossil thermal energy. This is something unthinkable. I had a meeting with Dr. Zimmerman and Alcina, and they said they were ashamed because they will have in their profile 10,000 megawatts run by oil in the Brazilian energetic matrix.
So these mills that should be backups are not the proper mills to operate in the base that it will need for the drought periods of the year. So this is the complementarity effect that bioelectricity could bring. I'm working here with the percentages of the month with a greater supply. So crushing of sugarcane in the southern and south regions with the stored energy we have as 100%. So this chart shows clearly how bioelectricity complements the power grid of Brazil. I think this chart illustrates in a very precise way the complementarity between these two sources of energy. Here is an exercise that we made looking on the following data. Based on the assumption that the major hydroelectric power plants in the Amazon regions that are scheduled to be built will be built, and how this would influence from the point of view of average gigawatts the supply of energy during the year. So in terms of a water period, the rainy season. So I would have this difference made even greater. So in March I would reach 115 and in August 35. So with the entry of the hydroelectric plants, which is an essential